Few people think about it, but in reality, the universe is not silent. Scientists have recorded various strange signals coming from the depths of space more than once. The nature of some of them is already clear to us, while others remain a mystery. NASA conducts round-the-clock monitoring of outer space, recording all signals of unknown origin. The main thing is that they don't pose a threat to our planet. It is worth noting that NASA focuses its observations mainly on those signals that could theoretically come from extraterrestrial civilizations. In this video, we will talk about a signal that came to us from a galaxy located 9 billion light-years away from us. What is the nature of such a discovery? And what does it mean for us? To detect signals coming from space, special radio telescopes are used. Even the slightest noises can't escape such devices. These devices are simply essential for us, because without special equipment, a person is unable to detect all signals from space or distinguish their nature. Modern technology allows us to monitor frequencies of various types around the clock, compare them with already recorded radio signals, and add them to a unified database of cosmic signals. It should be noted that the origin of most signals is known to us. Often they come from regions of space that are familiar to us, and we know how they originated. Sometimes we encounter signals that are not so easy to understand. It takes quite a lot of time, but eventually their nature is deciphered. Rarely, though, we come across signals with technosignatures and technomarkers. These are frequencies that indicate the involvement of some kind of technology. In January 2023, scientists from Canada and India managed to detect the most distant signal ever discovered in space. This is not just a signal, but a signal from neutral atomic hydrogen. As we know, hydrogen is a very important element for the universe, and it acts as a kind of cosmic builder. Since we're talking about the most distant hydrogen signal, it will help us learn about the universe as it was 8 billion years ago. That's exactly how much time passed between when the signal was formed and when it was detected. This was accomplished using the giant meter-wave radio telescope, which is located in India. And this is truly a unique discovery in itself because usually the length of signals of this type is much shorter. The detection of this type of signal became possible largely thanks to the effect of gravitational lensing. It is precisely thanks to this that we can see which objects in outer space are located farther away than others. Because as the distance increases, the shape becomes more distorted. The same thing happened with the signal, which is almost 9 billion years old. This effect significantly increased its power. This leads to the conclusion that the gravitational lensing effect can affect both light waves and radio waves. Arnab Chakraborty, a Canadian scientist and one of the discoverers of the most distant radio signal, also points out the importance of such a discovery. There are completely different radio signals in the galaxy. All this time, we could have picked up a signal from a galaxy that's about 10 times closer, which significantly limited our knowledge. Now we know for sure that the gravitational lensing effect applies to radio waves, which means that in our research we will make significant progress by gaining the ability to study distant corners of the universe. Of course, this process takes a huge amount of time because, as you understand, signals don't reach us in a day or even in a year. Scientists also managed to find out that the signal came from the galaxy SDSS J0826 plus 5630. It originated there at a time when the age of the universe was only about 4.9 billion years old. And, of course, the main question remained, did intelligent beings exist in the galaxy SDSS J0826 plus 5630 at that time to generate such a signal? Or is it still of natural origin? Signals that originate in distant corners of space rather than in nearby galaxies do not always reach our planet. They simply dissolve in the infinite depths of the universe. The signals that do reach Earth often come from a very powerful source. Such a source could be, for example, a supernova explosion or a pulsar. An interesting case occurred in 2019. At that time in Australia, at the Parkes Observatory, a signal was detected coming from Proxima Centauri, the star closest to the solar system. By the way, the signal was detected as part of a special program aimed at detecting signals of artificial origin. However, it was impossible to quickly obtain data about the origin of the detected signal. The processing stage, which includes many tests, takes a lot of time. This is necessary to ensure that the data is truly accurate and to eliminate the possibility of error. The signal was named BLC-1. Information about it was made public in December 2020 in the British newspaper The Guardian. And that was not the right decision, since the verification stage had not yet been completed. At the same time in the publication, the signal was called a technosignature, a sign of the existence of extraterrestrial civilizations. To confirm the theory, it was necessary to detect the signal again, but that did not happen. And a year later, scientists using the Copernican principle finally determined that BLC-1 is not a sign of the existence of extraterrestrial intelligent beings. So, what is the current situation with potential alien signals? At the moment, 8 new signals have been detected that could originate from an alien civilization. The detected signals have undergone more detailed analysis, since the ability to do this has expanded significantly, especially with the widespread use of artificial intelligence technology. As a result, all 8 signals were found to have so-called technosignatures. This means that the origin of the signals is extraterrestrial, not from already known sources. We can be confident in this information because in this case, scientists use new algorithms to separate the signals from various interference and noise. All this is to avoid repeating the unpleasant situation with BLC-1. During the investigation of the 8 mysterious signals, 150 terabytes of data were processed. It was found that the signals have a rather narrow frequency width. This is one of the characteristic features of technosignatures. However, there is one fact in all of this that casts doubt on the theory that the signal was generated by extraterrestrial technology. None of these signals were detected again. In other words, they were single occurrences. If the signals had been created by extraterrestrial technology, it's unlikely it would have been just a single signal. Most likely it would have been some kind of encoded message, consisting of a series of signals of the same type. Since we're currently dealing with single signals, it's difficult to fully analyze them and determine their exact origin. And again, so many questions remain unanswered. In the future, signals coming to us from distant galaxies will help us learn more about those corners of space that our research probes haven't reached yet. The molecular cloud closest to our planet, the place where stars are born. Some stars are about to be born, while others have been destroyed by sudden outbursts. Such structures contain many characteristic vortices and a certain amount of hydrogen at high temperatures. So what kind of cloud is this? What is its nature and essence? Molecular clouds of various sizes are quite common throughout the galaxy. They contain a huge amount of cosmic dust and interstellar gases, formed into a nebula. Perhaps the most famous of them is the Orion Nebula. It is only 1,344 light-years away from Earth. Thanks to its relatively short distance from our planet and its optimal size, scientists very often choose the Orion Nebula as an object of study. We were able to obtain an image of its structure in 1993. The Hubble telescope helped us. We were able to find out what color the nebula is. It is dominated by blue, violet, and red. In the outer regions, there are areas of bright green shades which are visible thanks to spectral analysis. This puzzles scientists because they couldn't determine which color such light is characteristic of. Then theories appeared that we are dealing with nebulium, an element dispersed in cosmic clouds whose existence had not been proven. After some time, the nebulium theory was abandoned, since it turned out that such glow is caused by ionized oxygen. It is now known for sure that there are more than 3,000 stars in the Orion Nebula. In addition to that, there are also protostars and huge clouds made up of interstellar gases. Altogether, this is equivalent to 10,000 solar masses. There are areas in the Orion Nebula that we should pay special attention to. This trapezoidal region is called Theta 1 Orionis. Its age is about 300,000 years. The region is a loose cluster of stars, among which the main components can be distinguished. Here we can distinguish 4 star systems. There is a small distance between them. They fit within an area with a diameter of only 1.5 light-years. The Theta Orionis C system has the largest mass in the entire Orion Nebula, not just in the trapezium region. It is equivalent to 40 times the mass of the Sun. The color of Theta 1 Orionis C.
Светло-голубой.
The radius of the star is 8 times larger than the radius of the Sun. The temperature of the star reaches about 44,726 degrees Celsius, which is higher than the temperature of our star. The glow from Theta 1 Orionis C actually spreads throughout the entire nebula. The stellar wind, which is common for stars like these, carries diffuse material across great distances. Accordingly, near the star, we can see a tiny amount of interstellar gas. Next comes a system called Theta 2 Orionis, located not far from the trapezium region. The system is located near hot gas in the form of long bands, called the Orion bar. The 3 stars that make up Theta 2 Orionis are gravitationally bound to each other. This area was difficult to study for quite a long time because the density of the dust clouds was very high. Here, the James Webb Telescope helped us. The images we received from it made our work much easier. We found out that the temperature of the first object in the system reaches about 34,726 degrees Celsius. Neither the second nor the third components are lagging behind. Their masses are equivalent to 15 and 5 solar masses, respectively. The peculiarity of the nebula is not only the high brightness of its stars. In the depths of the system, with the help of the aforementioned telescope, we discovered objects whose existence we had not known about for a long time. Objects such as proplyds or protoplanetary disks are of particular interest. It's like a planet embryo, a dense rotating gas disk formed around a star. Protoplanetary disks in the nebula.
Орионы расположились в центральной ее части.
There are about 180 of them. For example, we can mention the protostar Orion 294-606, which is 1 million years old. The protoplanetary disk around it is about 300 astronomical units in diameter. After a few million years, the star will enter the main sequence stage, which comes right after the protostar stage. A system may also form there, which will have exoplanets and their satellites. Most of the Orion Nebula is made up of diffuse gases. Ionized hydrogen predominates in the central part. Temperatures there reach about 9,726 degrees Celsius. The farther from the center, the lower the value. This area is characterized by powerful vortices with speeds of 50 km per second as different streams of stellar winds periodically collide there and temperature fluctuations are observed. In the Orion Nebula, besides these vortices, molecular hydrogen with relatively moderate temperatures, containing traces of water, ethane, and methane, forms filaments several light years long. The very heart of the nebula seems to be surrounded by a region composed mainly of cooled gas with high density. And it must be said this structure is striking in its beauty, combining the glow of the stars with the light emitted by ionized hydrogen. There are also other objects further on, but for now, we can only properly observe them using infrared radiation. A total of about 700 protostars of various ages, all in the process of developing, have been discovered there. Here, the level of compression of interstellar gases by gravitational forces is lower than in the center of the nebula. Accordingly, in the aforementioned region, the distance between the stars is greater. It's precisely during the process when gravity compresses interstellar gas that new stars are formed. Many centers of attraction are formed in nebulae. Over time, these centers transform into protostars. Those very molecular clouds we mentioned at the beginning of the video. A protostar reaches equilibrium when the internal gas pressure balances the force of gravity. The magnetic field of the star gradually becomes stronger and stronger. Under its influence, ionized particles gain speed, and their streams break out beyond the star. Clusters of such particles move at speeds of several hundred kilometers per second. These streams are the reason for the appearance of Herbig-Haro objects. These are relatively small nebula regions that form as objects are developing. The released gas streams crash into gas and dust clouds. As a result, powerful vortices are formed. Herbig-Haro objects have quite a diverse coloration, since a portion of their kinetic energy dissipates over time, releasing heat and light. Herbig-Haro objects are characterized by instability, which leads to frequent changes in color and shape. They gradually disappear and cease to exist after
десятки тысяч лет.
According to scientists' estimates, there are about 150,000 Herbig-Haro objects in the Milky Way. Another feature is the so-called cosmic bullets. They are also called Orion bullets. This is a cluster of gases with high density containing iron atoms and other heavy elements. The speed of such formations is very high. Accordingly, they pass through clouds of hydrogen. As a result, powerful shock waves are formed. We can't say for sure yet how such objects formed in the first place. Further research is needed. There is a hypothesis that an as-yet unknown destructive process contributed to this. It's important to mention that the Orion Nebula isn't the largest structure we should discuss in this video. It is part of the Orion Cloud, a much larger formation. It almost completely covers the area of the Orion constellation. You can find a lot of bizarre objects in the Orion Cloud. For example, Barnard's Loop, a cloud of ionized gas that is studied in the visible light spectrum. Barnard's Loop is also part of the Orion Molecular Cloud Complex. The structure appeared as a result of several consecutive supernova explosions. The Horsehead Nebula is also located nearby. It has a rather unusual shape and is a dense cloud of dust. The Orion Nebula is characterized by instability. This is not surprising since many processes occur there that disrupt the equilibrium. The formation of new stars, stellar winds, powerful streams of gas, and more. One of the results of this is the dispersion of matter in the Orion Nebula. And over time, the structure will cease to exist altogether. Yes, we haven't been able to uncover all the mysteries of the universe yet, despite the huge number of advanced research instruments. We might never find out. However, the data we've obtained thanks to telescopes has shown us how beautiful and unusual the Orion Nebula is. In one of our previous videos, we took a journey through the solar system. We learned how mysterious the planets are, even though they seem so familiar to us. But what if we go further? What if we dare to leave the solar system? What will we encounter there? However, first we must pass the remaining planets in our solar system, no less mysterious and no less ominous. Saturn. Without exaggeration, the brightest jewel of the solar system. Its rings appear to be a single system, although they were formed from a moon that broke apart into small fragments, unable to withstand Saturn's gravitational forces. The rings are made up of numerous icy pieces. They're completely different sizes. There are some that are barely noticeable up close, and on the other hand, there are much larger ones as well. Inside the ring system, there is constant movement, constant collisions. That's how the icy fragments either become very tiny or join together. How similar is all this to our solar system? More precisely, to how it was formed and how our planet emerged in this dangerous world. When the sun was in the early stages of its long life, it attracted a huge number of gas clouds. Gravity didn't waste any time and did its job. The gas clouds became denser and denser, colliding and merging with each other. And yes, that's how our planet was born. As beautiful as Saturn is, we need to continue our long journey. And next up is Saturn's moon, Titan. It's not so easy to see its surface since it's surrounded by clouds. Yes, you heard that right. It looks like Titan has an atmosphere. It might be hard for you to believe, but on a moon that's 1.2 billion kilometers away from Earth, there can be changing seasons, and various bodies of water can stretch across its surface. How much does all this remind you of our own planet? However, in reality, things aren't that simple. In space, not everything is what it seems at first glance. On the surface of Titan, it's not water at all, but natural gas in a liquid state, and there's an incredibly huge amount of it, Tertiary. Earth could only dream of having such reserves. If all that natural gas could somehow be transported to Earth, we would have an endless supply of fuel. And then every home on the planet would be supplied with energy. And if we think on a larger scale, if some kind of catastrophe happens on our planet, the surviving humans could move to this moon unless some other civilization gets there first. On the surface of Titan, the European Space Agency's Huygens probe is operating at full capacity. Thanks to it, we learned that the soil of the moon contains a certain amount of organic substances. However, the temperatures there are very low, about minus 180 degrees Celsius. Accordingly, life cannot develop there. Everything could change for the better if over time the sun becomes hotter and the temperature on Titan increases. If conditions were better, settling there would already be possible. Who knows, maybe in the future these won't just be words, they will become our reality. After all, in many years this could become a new home for Earthlings. How far we've flown from our home planet? We've traveled over 1 billion kilometers. At such a distance, it's hard to make out Earth in the distance. The farther we move away from the center of the solar system, the more unknown and mysterious everything around us becomes. We keep going deeper and deeper into the outer part of the solar system. Our journey leads to its edge. We're now confidently flying to our destination. We are greeted by Uranus with its ring system. They're not always visible in pictures of the planet, but up close they're truly impressive. The rings are not as complex in structure as Saturn's rings, but they're more complex than Jupiter's ring system. From here, Earth looks like a tiny pearl. To finally reach the edge of our planetary system, we still have a long way to go. Another 20,000 kilometers. Next on our journey is the harsh Neptune, named after the ancient Roman god of the seas. The atmosphere of this planet contains helium and methane. There are such powerful storms on its surface. Their speed is 1,500 kilometers per hour. The peculiarity of the wind currents there is that they are controlled by a force unknown to us. Usually the sun is responsible for this. However, the distance between it and Neptune is too great. This planet is not influenced by the main star of the system. So what is the mystery of Neptune? When will we be able to solve it? Triton? Neptune's moon.
Ох, как же.
It's turbulent there. Just look at how many powerful geysers there are on its surface. Another feature of Triton is that it moves along its orbit in the opposite direction to Neptune's rotation. We know how Triton will meet its end. It will be destroyed by the gravitational force of its planet. It won't be able to resist this. That's all. Now we've gone through all the satellites.
С темы дальше их уже не будет.
It's cold and dark here. This part of the planetary system is so inhospitable. Look, it seems we've found something interesting. There are many icy and rocky fragments in this area. At one time, we agreed that there was nothing beyond Pluto. However, how wrong we were. We discovered icy worlds out there. They don't have names yet, since this discovery is relatively recent for us. After so many years, it seemed we had learned all there was about the solar system. However, it turned out that this wasn't actually the case. We are at a distance of 13 billion kilometers from Earth. Here is the most distant object in the solar system that orbits the Sun. Dwarf planet. A trans-Neptunian object named 90,377 Sedna. It was discovered recently on November 14, 2003. Sedna is more than 130 billion kilometers away from the Sun, and the object completes a full orbit in just 10,000 years. Let's move on. And what do we see? This is the space probe Voyager 1, a research probe that is the farthest from Earth, a whole 16 billion kilometers. How much new information about the planets and moons in the solar system have we learned thanks to Voyager 1? Take a closer look at it. The spacecraft has this golden panel. It's kind of like a note that contains greetings in different languages spoken on Earth, and also instructions on how to reach our planet. Hopefully this information will someday reach the right people, or maybe not hands at all. Who knows what a representative of a potential distant civilization might look like? But what if all the information ends up in the hands of those who wish us harm?
We're flying past Voyager. Our journey isn't over yet. We've left 8 trillion kilometers behind, but we still have a much greater distance to cover. And now, ahead of us lies a more mysterious world, interstellar space. There are a huge number of stars here. Most of them are so similar to our Sun. Without acceleration, moving through such vast space is extremely problematic. And here we are greeted by Alpha Centauri. It took us a whole 150,000 years to get here. There are 3 stars in this system: Alpha Centauri A, Alpha Centauri B, and Alpha Centauri C. The stars move quite close to each other, and their gravitational forces are so immense that it could have led to their destruction. В результате столкновения. Their incredibly high orbital speed turned out to be the real savior here, which helps the stars keep their distance from each other. If an outside object entered the sphere of influence of these 3 stars, it would simply crash into the surface of one of the stars. Measuring the distance here in kilometers is very, very problematic. It's better to use light years here. A beam of light travels a distance of 10 trillion kilometers in a year. The distance from Alpha Centauri to Earth is 40 trillion kilometers. That's 4 light years. It's just incredible. For us Earthlings, it's hard to understand how anything on such an enormous scale can even exist, but in space, truly anything is possible. We are flying farther and farther. And now we're getting close. The star Gliese 581, which means we've already moved 20 light years away from Earth. The age of Gliese 581 is almost the same as the age of our Sun. Also, notice that there is a planet orbiting the star, and by the way, it has a very favorable position, which would provide optimal conditions for the origin and development of living organisms. Life could begin there too if a comet collides with the planet's surface, bringing water and the necessary organic substances. And then, taking this factor into account as well, the planet's position relative to its star would be ideal. Complex organisms will appear, and some of them may be at the same level of development as us, humans, or perhaps they might even surpass us. It is already 50 light years away from our home planet, and here lies a system that is in many ways similar to the solar system, especially in that life could very well develop there as well. It's truly lucky to discover such a system, but just imagine how many similar ones we simply haven't noticed in front of us. The planet 51 Pegasi b is unofficially also called Bellerophon. It orbits fairly close to its parent star. In terms of size, the planet is the same as Jupiter, and its surface has incredibly high temperatures. 1000 degrees Celsius. 51 Pegasi b belongs to a special type of planets that can be called hot Jupiters, and they are mainly composed of hydrogen and helium. Inside the planet, these elements are under tremendous pressure, they get compressed and become less and less like gases. We don't stop, we keep going further and further. In front of us is the Milky Way. This is a world, a multitude of stars, where each one is unique and unlike any other. And here is the constellation Orion. We see the star Betelgeuse, one of the brightest in the night sky. Its diameter is 600 times greater than that of the Sun. Just imagine the scale of it. Let's pause for a moment near the Orion Nebula. Here we see a dense layer of gas and dust, and inside a sphere of burning gas. There are high temperatures and a huge number of nuclear reactions. Thanks to the Orion Nebula, a great number of new stars are born. Such beauty is born through something so terrifying, and around us there are streams of dust and gas, explosions. Everything is exploding at incredible speeds. It seems like all this leads to the destruction of the universe, but it doesn't. That's how celestial bodies are born. But how does the life of stars end? Do they explode, or do they gradually fade away? We need to travel another 4,000 light years. In front of us is a cluster of clouds that emit light. They surround a former star that was in many ways similar to the Sun. As a result of the fusion of the nuclei of such a star, gases were formed, which were then released into space. Thanks to similar stars that died long ago, we have both nitrogen and acids here on Earth. In fact, we are made from the remnants of extinct stars. It's amazing how many unsolved mysteries the universe holds. Some of them we will solve, but many will disappear into oblivion, leaving us without answers.
It seems like our planet is huge and we are just tiny particles, just specks of dust compared to its colossal size. Indeed, for people, the Earth seems simply gigantic. But on the scale of the universe, it is just an insignificant and tiny particle. In our videos, we talk a lot about distant galaxies, about the very edge of the universe, to understand what place our planet holds in this world. However, what if, instead of traveling billions of light years as we usually do, we stayed within our solar system? Boring? There's a lot we don't know about the planets we were told about in our school astronomy lessons, whose names we remember by heart. What secrets do they hold? Leave your earthly problems behind and look up at the night sky where the moon stands out, the Earth's constant natural satellite, visited by 12 astronauts. Citizens of the United States were fortunate enough to go there. The first of them, as you know, was Neil Armstrong, who set foot on the moon in 1969, the last person to go there. Harrison Schmitt walked on the surface of Earth's satellite in. 51 years have passed since then, but despite this, the moon remembers everything. It is 384,400 kilometers away from Earth, but on the scale of the universe, that's not such a great distance. However, in human perception, this journey seems like a very, very long trip. It is quite likely that a new journey to Earth's satellite will happen very soon. In May 2024, a crewed flyby of the moon is planned as part of the Artemis II mission, and in 2025, a landing of people on its surface is planned during the Artemis III mission. Who knows? Maybe after that we'll look at the moon in a completely different way. Let's move a little farther away from Earth. There's something even more interesting waiting for us there. Venus is a planet named after the Roman goddess of beauty, and it truly fascinates with its inhospitable, deadly beauty thanks to its clouds that reflect sunlight. It's also the brightest planet in our solar system, so it's impossible not to notice it. It has several names: the morning star, the evening star, and Earth's evil twin. But why is it called the evil twin? Judge for yourself. Both planets are indeed similar in size, but while Earth is comfortable for life, Venus, on the other hand, is harsh and unforgiving. The planet's atmospheric layer is dominated by carbon dioxide, and the clouds, which could be mistaken for Earth's, are made up of sulfuric acid. Yeah, we definitely wouldn't survive there. And that's not the only reason why the beautiful Venus can be considered an absolute hell. It's also incredibly hot on Venus, somewhere around 500 degrees Celsius, a particularly pleasant temperature, I must say. And of course, if we ended up on the surface of Venus, we would simply be flattened like a pancake. It's all about the gravity, which is deadly for a human being. Really, it's Earth's evil twin, a deadly, beautiful planet. Global warming here is taken to the absolute extreme without exaggeration. And it's quite possible that things weren't always like this. And Venus wasn't always so threatening. There is a theory that after some time, Earth might look like this too. Our planet could become just like its ominous twin. Who knows? Maybe that's exactly how things will turn out. Or maybe Earth has a different fate ahead. After Venus, the planet closest to the Sun is Mercury, and it's extremely unusual too. During the day, the temperature there is about 430 degrees Celsius, but at night it drops to minus 190 degrees. Terrifying temperature swings.
Рельеф у Меркурия.
And many are rushing to Agevelock, and we can do this. For its size, the planet is quite massive, and the force of gravity is truly enormous. Perhaps at some point the planet was larger, but as a result of a collision with another planet, at an earlier stage of its existence, it became smaller. Who knows? If that hadn't happened, Mercury might look completely different now. Yes, space is harsh, and not everyone is destined to remain unscathed or even survive. And here it is, our main star, the Sun, the source of life and death. Just like Venus, it is deadly in its magnificence. Thanks to it, life exists on our planet at all. However, it can also destroy us. Our ancestors were aware of the immense power of the sun.
Его влияние на нас.
That's why there was always a sun god in ancient beliefs. Helios in ancient Greece, Dodgebog among pagans, Ra in ancient Egypt, Inti among the Incas, Tonatiuh among the Aztecs. People were afraid of the sun. People worship the sun. 149 million kilometers? That's exactly how far our planet is from the sun. If, for example, the sun suddenly disappeared, we wouldn't know about it for almost 10 minutes. The sun is deadly hot. On its surface, the temperature reaches 5,772 Kelvin. In its inner layers, it's an order of magnitude higher. It's even scary to imagine that number. Imagine the power of the nuclear reaction happening there. When you go out to warm yourself in the sun on a spring day, remember how deadly the sun is and how many nuclear reactions are happening on it right at this moment. Prominences are held in the sun's magnetic field. These are loops that form above the surface. 10 million volcanoes can hardly produce as much energy as one such loop does. Sunspots also form there. They stand out because of their black color. Their temperature is an order of magnitude lower than the temperature of the other components. However, it's still lethally high for us. Right now, the sun has tremendous power, but nothing lasts forever, and our main star is no exception. Sooner or later, the sun will slowly fade away to a point, and it will die. And that means our home planet will face the same fate.
And we will continue to share these facts with you. Humanity is interested not only in what will happen in the future, but also in what happened in the past. Take comets, for example. They also carry tremendous power. Our planet hasn't encountered comets on its path for a long time. However, according to some experts, one of them might have crashed into Earth and brought samples of organisms to its surface,
способствовав таким образом зарождению у нас жизни.
A comet might have even given us water, and that's exactly why Earth might have become the way we know it today. That allowed the human race to emerge. But imagine what would happen if a comet crashed into our planet now. That would be the end of humanity. At least the end of humanity on Earth. Maybe if that happened, some people would start looking for a home somewhere on another planet. In giant space arcs, like in science fiction novels. But for now, we're not leaving the solar system. We're heading to Mars, to the Red Planet. Attempts to find at least traces of living organisms there began a long time ago. For some reason, Mars has always fascinated people, and how many science fiction works are about Martians? The topic of life on Mars interested writers like Herbert Wells long before the first satellite entered Earth's orbit. But what if all these stories contain at least some grain of truth? Would we be able to accept this information? For now, we have to leave this question unanswered. There are huge amounts of minerals on Mars, and there are also powerful sandstorms there. Mars has an atmosphere, but it is not very dense. Yes, carbon dioxide predominates in its composition. Living organisms would have a hard time, to put it mildly. On top of everything else, the surface temperature drops to minus 60 degrees Celsius. Of course, there are creatures that can survive in very, very harsh conditions. In theory, they could live on Mars as well. However, there are some nuances. There should be geological activity there, so that various minerals can appear, which means there is a high risk of encountering earthquakes, which would be more accurately called Marsquakes. We should step up our exploration of Mars. Then we will know more about its past, present, and future. Look at the terrain of Mars. The exploration of the planet's surface was undertaken by Opportunity, one of NASA's 2 rovers, as part of the Mars Exploration Rover project. It's possible that many of the plains we see on the surface could once have been Martian lakes. Moreover, there is a suggestion that water flows in the inner layers of the planet. It's possible that there was life on Mars in the past. Can you imagine that? You'll be even more surprised now because there's a theory that Mars actually gave life to Earth. It is assumed that at some point, an object, possibly an asteroid, collided with Mars, causing a piece to break off, and that piece contained Martian microorganisms. Then that piece fell to Earth along with all of that, which started life on our planet. Oh, there is still so much we don't know about Mars. When traveling to the next planet, we face difficulties, namely asteroids. Their speed usually reaches 80,000 kilometers per hour. Their width can reach hundreds of kilometers. In earlier periods, as a result of collisions, fragments of asteroids broke off and some of them later became planets, which started our planetary system. For example, the age of the Earth is about 4.5 billion years. We learned this by studying the remains of meteorites on the surface of our planet. Some fragments of asteroids never became planets. On their way, they encountered insurmountable obstacles. Jupiter, the giant planet. Compared to it, Earth seems like just a tiny ball. You could fit several Earths inside Jupiter at once. Because of its size, the gravity of the giant planet is extremely powerful. Under the influence of Jupiter's gravity, asteroids that enter the planet's sphere of influence cannot become planets. Oh yes, you shouldn't underestimate Jupiter. It's also called a gas giant, and for good reason, because the planet is mostly made up of gas. So if we land on the planet's surface, we'll find out for ourselves that its upper layers are quite soft, and we can easily sink into them. Jupiter, like its fellow planets in the system, is mesmerizingly beautiful, and this beauty is just as deadly to all living things. On the gas giant, there are very strong winds that sweep across the surface at tremendous speeds. As a result, various vortices and eddies form, which can be seen in images of Jupiter. The most remarkable of them is this great red spot. It is about 300 years old, and in terms of size, it is 3 times larger than Earth. Can you imagine that? Jupiter is a deadly planet where, on top of everything else, the radiation levels are incredibly high. That much of it gives the planet an extremely powerful magnetic field. Yes, it's better to admire such beauty from afar. It's unlikely that any force could tame this majestic planet. As you can see, we've only traveled a short distance from Earth. And how much breathtaking beauty have we discovered? We definitely know that this is far from all there is. The solar system still has more to tell us.
What do you see on the screen? Yes, that's an ordinary tablespoon. You can dip it into hot soup or sugar, or even throw it outside right into a puddle. But what will happen to it afterwards? Nothing special will happen. Of course, you should wash the spoon after all that, but overall, its appearance won't change. And that's all thanks to nickel, which serves as reliable protection against corrosion. The spontaneous destruction of various things, including metals, which occurs due to physicochemical, electrochemical, and chemical interactions between the material and the environment. It may seem like just a silvery metal, but how much benefit does it bring? Even ordinary coins don't turn into a rusty lump after a couple of years of use, thanks to nickel. In fact, 2/3 of all nickel produced is used for stainless steel, which is especially important when a device often comes into contact with water. Nickel is an essential element for some car parts, pipelines, nuclear reactors, ovens, refrigerators, and more. Nickel consumption is increasing year by year. Now, the world already needs 2 billion tons, although just a couple of decades ago this figure was 1 billion tons. And nickel is expensive, let me tell you. You need $25,000 to buy 1 ton of nickel. And it's important to note that during various global crises, the price only goes up. Nickel mining brings high profits to many countries and companies. For example, the company Nornickel has 72,000 employees, produces an additional 200,000 tons of nickel per year, and earns $5.5 billion in revenue. We're telling you all this, but you probably have a question. This is a channel about space. So what does nickel mining have to do with space? The thing is, we intend to mine nickel directly in space. And these aren't just some very distant plans. We're getting closer and closer to making it happen. After all, the corresponding project will be launched in just a few months. Where exactly do we intend to mine nickel, and how is it going to happen? Let's talk about an object that could radically change the global economy. Our path leads to the orbit of Mars and a little beyond it. Not far from the orbit of Mars and Jupiter, 500 million kilometers away from the Sun, there's an asteroid called Psyche. It may seem like just an asteroid, but do you know how much it's worth? It's worth $10 quintillion. A quintillion is a number with 18 zeros. Just think about it. For comparison, the global economy is $103 trillion. In a year, all the people on Earth earn only 1/10,000th of Psyche's total value. You might have another question. Psyche is quite far away from us. Why can't we choose an object that's in a more convenient location for such a mission? In fact, the Psyche asteroid contains nickel and certain types of iron, while other asteroids are mostly made up of ice and rocks. You have to agree, it's pretty hard to find another object like that, especially one that's also closer to us. And Psyche opens up opportunities for us to mine not only nickel, but other metals as well. Psyche is basically a metallic boulder with an ellipsoidal shape. The diameter of this object is about 226 kilometers. When studying Psyche, researchers are guided not only by economic reasons to replenish our nickel reserves. Research objectives are also important here. How did this asteroid form, and what can it reveal about how the universe works? It's also worth saying a few words about the temperature of the Earth's core. We don't have exact data on the temperature. There's only an approximate figure since we don't have direct access to the core. You understand why. But what does the Earth's core have to do with Psyche? One theory says that the core of our planet is an alloy of nickel and iron. We can probably find a similar composition in asteroid 16 as well. Now, Psyche's core is solidified, but it's believed that some time ago it was molten, just like Earth's core. If Psyche's core is solidified, then if we have direct access to it, we can study it in more detail, which will help us understand the features of Earth's core as well. It might seem like we've shared a lot of information about Psyche, but that's not the case. There is still a lot we don't know about this asteroid. Moreover, we don't even have a photograph of Psyche yet. All we have so far is an image created through modeling. What makes studying Psyche even more difficult is its distance from Earth. With such initial data, the process of studying the asteroid has to proceed very slowly. However, there is a positive side to all this. The prospect of studying Psyche in greater depth is closer than we can imagine. A group of researchers began developing the idea of sending spacecraft to Psyche back in 2011. In 4 years, the idea grew into a detailed 256-page plan. NASA liked this plan and approved further development. Until 2017, the plan kept gaining new details, which convinced NASA even more that it had made the right decision. At that time, the group involved in the project received more resources at their disposal, including financial support. This made it possible to start directly developing the research vehicle. It was predictably named Psyche. And what do you think? When will the vehicle begin its mission? According to the plan, this should happen in October 2023. Then Psyche will head to Psyche's orbit. This should happen around August 2029. After all, the distance from Earth to the asteroid is 3 astronomical units. What, do those timelines seem reasonable? Do you think that in 2029 we'll already be mining metals on Psyche? Well, we have to disappoint you here. The Psyche spacecraft mission is purely research-oriented. We need to study the composition of the asteroid, its properties, and characteristics in order to understand future prospects. And the data we get as a result of this mission will need to be studied and processed for several years. When it comes to the actual extraction of metals, keep in mind that it will take several years for the appropriate spacecraft to reach Psyche and time for the return journey. With all this, we will need to assess whether this makes economic sense. In any case, the issue of actual metal extraction will be discussed more specifically if there is a positive outcome starting from 2040. But nevertheless, all of this sounds very promising, doesn't it? Yes, we're still not mining nickel on Psyche. However, just think about it. We're already discussing this as something quite real, something that will affect our economy here on Earth, not as a science fiction story that might maybe someday become reality. Just think about it. We're the ones doing all this, humans. And what do you think? Will the mission to Psyche be successful? And will mining nickel in space replace mining nickel on Earth?